activated.
There's a place at the end of the
road. 2018 GSL Season 3 Rockshear. The genius that was born again in the dawn has grown to be the king. But the battle is only about to begin. Take your opponents down, or you will fall down under their feet. There will be only glory for the winner and pain for the loser. Rise up, higher, ever higher, or fall forever. 2018 GSL Season 3. This is Rockshear.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another day of the GSL Code S. We are here in Group C, and we'll taste doses on our way at WCS Valencia. Myself, Rapid, and No Regret will be filling in for Group C and, of course, Group D as well. So I hope you're excited to be here with us for another group of the GSL Code S.
I'm excited. This is going to be an exciting group for sure.
So here's a look at the matchups from Group B and the match results. Of course, if I were a used car salesman, I could slap the top of the GSL and say this baby can hold so many upsets. Maru, of course, getting out as the favorite, but Deer getting upset in the last match by Leenock.
Yeah, very surprising result in general. Like, you do not expect Leenock to make it out of this group. This is one of the hardest groups for sure.
I mean, this is also a very hard group. You would come in here as maybe your average viewer and say that Stats and Innovation are clear favorites, but at least from what you've been telling me, No Regret, that may not be the case.
I personally don't think that's 100% like how it's going to play out. I hope for the best for Cure and Hurricane. Like, I think Hurricane can definitely be one of those people to also create an upset and have the third group be an upset as well. And Kira, obviously, I think is insanely underrated in general.
Well, I'm glad that we have at least that feedback, because going into this, it might seem one-sided. Let's head into an interview with our players. So this is the third place in WCS Korea rankings. This is Stats.
오랜만에 경기라 되게 설레는 마음으로 왔는데 경기 결과도
He says, I'm really excited to have my offline matches here today. He says, I hope that if things go as expected, I can do my best here today.
이번 예선에서 좋은 성적을 거두고 2시즌 만에 코드S에 복귀했습니다. 멜리오라 e스포츠 남기웅 선수입니다.
So after being out for a season, he's back again. This is Meliora Esports Hurricane. So hello, Hurricane.
제 생각에는 지금 저희 조가 많이 대입장에서
He says, well, I personally think that all the groups are very tough, but because I prepared very hard, I'll do my best to get to the round of 16.
지난 시즌 오랜만에 코드S에 복귀했지만 아쉽게 탈락했죠.
Last season he came back to GSL Code S, but he was eliminated in round of 32. This is Generic Green Wings Cure. He says hello. I'm Generic Green Wings Cure.
치르게 됐는데 블리즈컨을 목표로 마지막까지 끝까지 열심히 하는 모습.
Yeah, I made it to GSL round of 32 this season, but still I have BlizzCon as my goal, so I'll try my best to make it there.
이번 시즌 출전 선수 중 GSL 최다 우승 기록을 갖고 있죠. 시즌 3에서
This guy has the most wins in the GSL. This is O Gaming's Innovation.
이신영입니다. 32강인데
Hello, I'm Innovation.
괜히 걱정이
This is the round of 32.
뭐 연습
Somehow I feel really nervous and worried about today's games,
열심히 하겠습니다.
but hopefully my results turn out as I expect. So that's it for our player interviews. Hope you guys enjoyed those riveting, scintillating thoughts, specifically from Innovation there at the end. I can't wait to see how our players do here today. I think that, like we said earlier, maybe Stats and Innovation have a lot of results, but there have also been a lot of upsets this season.
I agree. I'm also surprised that Innovation said he's a little bit nervous for this group. Like, I feel like Innovation in general just like, no, this group's pretty easy or whatever. So that kind of just shows you how scary some of these players can be, especially Kier. Hurricane, totally upsettable. Stats, obviously, is the second solid in the group.
You know, I don't know whether or not that is just, the player being humble and saying, well, anything could happen. But if Innovation says he's nervous, that is very, very scary. But here's one man that very rarely gets nervous. This is Stats. Of course, you can see second place in the first season of GSL, and then round of 16, and then 9th currently. Coming into Season 3. So you gotta say this guy looks very, very good. Of course, one of the all-time great Protosses in Korea, but we already saw Classic, one of the best Protosses in Korea, go out in an upset match to Rainer, so anything can happen.
Yeah, especially in PvP, and I'd like to see what happens. I think Hurricane can definitely come up with an upset, but it's gonna be really hard for him in this match. Especially, I think Stats PvP in general is just really strong, so he definitely needs to break that ability, or break the wall of Stats.
Yeah, this is Namgyung, our Hurricane's 6th GSL Code S. He's coming off of a break after not qualifying last season. So hopefully he is going to come back and he can take his Red Supreme Messenger bag all the way to the finals.
So I was talking about this. Atlas is in the map set
What?
right here. Yep.
What is that doing in there, No Regret?
That's pretty interesting. I predicted that this would probably be the first series we'd see Atlas just because there's no Zergs.
Another game of Veto Chicken gone horribly wrong.
I think there might have been some Veto Chicken.
Well, our first two maps should be very familiar to our viewers, Catalyst and Acid Plant. Of course, they've both been around for a long time. We're about to head into game number 1 of our first set. It is Stats versus Hurricane. And away we go on to Catalyst. This is going to be a PvP starting in the upper left-hand corner with
Stats.
Came in right at the bell there. And his opponent in the bottom right-hand corner in the red. This is
Our boy.
Chrono boosting his Nexus.
Meliora Esports. Hurricane.
My man, Namgyung, of course, very kind of near and dear to my heart. Also yours, Jake, because he is part of the Unity house out there.
I've been living with him for, say, 9 months or so, I would say, 7 months. And I've never seen him as determined to win this group as I've seen him play anything. Like, even the GSL qualifier, I haven't seen him practice nearly as much as he has now. And he's been working really hard with all the players at our house, so I'm really excited to see what he can do. Specifically, he played a lot of games with Neeb, so that would probably... Neeb's actually pretty good to practice with if you're practicing for Stats, in my opinion. So
you also mentioned kind of the same thing, same storyline with Rainer coming in here.
Rainer also prepared really hard.
Very hard practice.
Really well.
Thanks for coming down. It's always good to have new faces in the audience. But yeah, very hard practice and preparation, and actually getting a lot of help from the other players in the Unity
also
house.
Neeb.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to increase Neeb's salary.
Funny how that works. Yeah, Neeb has been the practice partner to go to when it comes to practicing against some of the strongest Protoss players in Korea. Okay,
never mind. This probe's just to take the Nexus, or what? So it doesn't get blocked? Interesting pro placement here. I'm not sure. I'm not a PvP expert, though.
Exactly. I wasn't exactly sure what was going on with that placement, but just to go ahead and highlight the way that these games are opening, I'm waiting to see if there are Nexi going down. I thought that's what that probe was for. But
I think you should get some help, my good sir.
I think we should.
But passion overwhelming, I guess, you know?
There you go. At least we have that, but here we go. Hurricane with that pylon coming down. I'm curious to see what he wants to do with that, and whether or not Stats will be able to scout any shenanigans afoot. Oh, he's going down there.
I mean, even if you scout that, it's not that insane.
Right, it doesn't really give you a whole lot of information.
It's just like, why is your pylon there? Like, honestly, it doesn't tell you too much. Like, in my opinion, it would push you to think that he's going to take a Nexus. But he's actually building a Twilight there?
Yeah, it does look like there are Twilight Councils, basically the same timing on both sides.
Yeah, so this is actually a good example. The Twilights are at the same time. So Hurricane hiding his Twilight Council could just be a mind game here. It's nothing crazy. That's the biggest thing. This is just normal building at a normal time, but it just happens to be in an odd position.
But you can see Stats a little bit.
Yeah, see, Stats is looking for something because he's confused. He's like, "Why?
Yeah,
Where's
so
your gas
maybe
going?"
that is the mind game kind of paying off, right? Hurricane has also sent those 2 Adepts. It is double Adept opening. They go ahead and
Okay,
take out
here's the
that scouting probe, so a little bit of a
Now-
lack of information.
Now we're getting into cheeky territory. Okay, we've got a Dark Shrine on the way. Really kind of interesting position for a Dark Shrine. Like, usually you want to build this on the map somewhere. It can be scouted, but it also allows you to warp in the DTs on the other side. If you build your Dark Shrine at home, then your warp in distance is really far. Okay, here comes a proxy pylon. This makes sense to me. Though this is just as scoutable as something like a Dark Shrine on the map too. So, you know what I mean? You're building an extra pylon on the map. Seems a little bit much, but it's okay.
Now shading into the main, just trying to get a couple of cheeky kills, but unfortunately trying to grab gas drones is hard, but he does get
Honestly,
one.
the biggest thing here is the scouting with that Adept. Like, you know there's no Robo here, so you should feel pretty comfortable with the DT here. Blink is actually a really sick scout for Hurricane. Oh, he almost saw it. He turned around the last second.
This is a little bit comical. How close can you get without seeing the hidden tech?
Okay, I think that Robo is kind of suspicious, and that's why Stats is building his Robo. Like, tech-wise, there's nothing here. Like, this Robo is delayed. It should be finished already if this is your first tech structure. So you already see Stats kind of preparing for the Dark Shrine.
Well, he does have a sentry at the front door for a force field, so that is going to be very, very important. And our observer showing us
He's
the Stats
100%.
still doesn't have vision.
He knows it's coming, though. Even though he hasn't seen it, he knows it's coming.
Well, here are the first 2 DTs being warped in at that proxy location. They are en route to the main. See if he can force field in time. He's probably
He's
watching
gonna get
this
the force
area,
field,
and
yeah.
there's an instantaneous force field. No DTs
The
allowed.
one thing is that these DTs go for the Nexus right now. The only thing they want is the Nexus. Maybe he can get it before the Observer gets out, but I think it's pretty close. This DT already hasn't been attacking long enough.
Yeah, he wasn't going through.
pushes
Oh, he
it in.
actually missed the force
This is
field,
Sue.
so
He's
gonna
gonna get both
get it in.
sentries possibly here.
Oh my goodness!
This
Blinking
is way
to try
more
to,
damage than it should ever do, by
He
the way.
tried to blink on top of the sentry to shield it from the
Let's get
DTs.
the other one,
He's
yeah.
going to get both sentries. That means no more force fields at the ramp unless he warps in another sentry, which isn't what you want right now.
They're building a forge here, too. This is pretty good for Hurricane, honestly. Like, realistically, that wasn't going to do much. Oh, he actually sneaks a DT in. Stats doesn't know about it.
I thought
Oh, he's getting
no.
He's getting workers.
Oh my god, this is actually a tragic because the observer actually was following the lower DT and now he's going to have to come back up here. 5 probes going down. I didn't expect him to get any kills.
Well, he killed the DT in the low ground, and then as he was chasing the DT in the main, Hurricane snuck a second DT in, and Stats just had no idea. He saw 0 amount there. Like, that did so much damage compared to what it should have.
So
Stats picked up on it immediately.
Right.
So
he knew almost exactly what was coming. He prepared adequately, but that second force field accidentally shoving the DT at the front of it to the back of it and letting it in really kind of threw his game off. But now we get a chance to see what it looks like when Stats comes around and is actually going to get his Adepts in the main.
There's no shield battery here either, so he could get a couple probes. At least 3, I would say. Here comes the third probe. Yeah, here gets the third. That's quite nice. I mean, that's kind of like a consolation prize, to be honest. Like, if you look at the supplies and everything, Hurricane is definitely in an advantage position right now.
Small advantage though it may be, but I think the real thing to point out is that neither player is drastically thrown off their game, right? They both have their naturals up, they have similar worker counts.
I agree. I think the one thing is Stats could be a little bit susceptible to some sort of 2-base timing.
Okay.
Like, when we're looking at tech, we see Charge on the way already, which is really fast, by the way. He already has Blink. There's a Templar Archive on the way. So, like, tech-wise, Hurricane seems to be really pulling ahead, especially when it comes to upgrades.
Yeah, 4 gates to 2 also coming out here along with that Templar Archives, like you mentioned.
This looks a lot like a timing to me, and I would expect it to be a +1 timing, especially now that he's chronoing it.
So you're saying the goal of what Hurricane's trying to accomplish here is to go for
either
the sneaky opening and get a small advantage.
Yeah, and it's either a +1 timing now, or he's going to take the third. It can be either right now. But at this moment, right now, adding on 4 gateways on 2 bases is a little bit suspicious to me.
I agree.
I think it depends on what he scouts here.
Okay, well, he didn't get in and see a whole lot there. I guess you could check saturation or if there are any tech buildings built at the natural, but not a whole lot of intel into the main of Stats, who also has his own Templar Archives on the way.
But he also sees there's no third base, so my guess is that it won't be something super all-in. It'll probably just be, it's taking his own third. That makes sense to me. Like I said, if you scouted a third there, you might go for that 2-base timing or something like that. Again, I'm no PvP expert, but that would make sense to me. I think third base should be punishable. So here comes the scout. He's going to scout pretty much everything here.
Yeah, tries it from one direction, he gets blocked. This time he does get the full scout off. So just maybe a fraction slower for stats on a couple of things like Templar Archives or the third base coming up. But all in all, pretty
It's starting to
even
out,
across
yeah.
the board.
Especially because stats is getting his +2 now. So like that's a clear edge in my opinion, having your +2. You could do like your +2 timing as well. Okay, here comes Hurricane's push though.
Yeah, they were even on upgrades right now, but as soon as that +2 kicks in, that's going to be a
This
big
is actually
advantage
pretty
for
big.
stats.
There's 2 Immortals on the other side of the map. So this is just 2 Immortals missing from the engagement if he doesn't recall this.
I mean, this is a big warp in right now.
I kind of
Archon's
think he
morphing
needs
in.
to recall this, right? The Archon can block the force field here.
I mean, how much damage can he get done on the other side of the map, right? There's going to be warp-ins
no.
back at home, but
What did
this...
he recall? I hope he didn't recall anything big.
Okay, he recalled a couple of Stalkers and an Archon.
Okay, he might be able to just go for the Nexus right now. That would be a huge play.
Yeah, if you can cancel this Nexus, it just sets your opponent so far
Oh, he's
behind.
getting it.
He's
100%.
targeting it, and yeah, 100% with these
The one thing we have to think
Immortals
about is he
focusing.
doesn't have a recall now, though, so if he gets caught out of position or something like that, his army is fully committed here. But I think his army's actually bigger.
Yeah, it actually is. Like, it's not the same composition, so there might be ways to make it work. He does have the Guardian Shield there, but he's actually going to blink in, and Stats will snipe that Warp
Yeah, but
Prism.
all these Stalkers are in Immortal range now.
Yeah, but there are a couple of more Immortals coming in, and with a Blink Stalker, or with a Blink, I guess, esque from that Warp Prism, it's actually better controlled there by Stats, and I think he is just going to crush Hurricane's army.
Well, the biggest thing is that Hurricane couldn't warp in a Zealot reinforcement because it was sniped down.
Right.
If he had been able to warp in a Zealot reinforcement there, I think Hurricane takes that fight. It's a really nice pickoff by the Warp. That Warp Prism pickoff was clearly essential to that defense.
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime you take down the Warp Prism, all you have to do is deal with the forces right there. And there was no way to save them with no recall because he had used that earlier to defend against that double Immortal drop. So a little bit of a rough spot there for Hurricane, but he does get the cancel on the Nexus.
To be fair, I think recalling would have killed his army anyways. The biggest thing is, like, you kill the third, you can back up and then recall, right? But if you ever actually engage with recall, your army is kind of just, like, you can't recall it or you'll lose it.
Yeah, you're sitting there taking free damage.
The
and
one
then the
thing,
guy counterattacks.
the biggest thing here is the third died. So, like, even though it was a pretty good trade for stats, economically speaking, and, like, the fact that there's third base is up, it's way better for Hurricane.
Well, now that we get a chance to see what
so many
Stats'
Archons.
revenge, right?
As
This is
long-
a counterattack with +2, so a weapons advantage for Stats and a very, very strong army with Warp Prism support.
I think the biggest issue here is this is too many Zealots. These Zealots are just going to run into Archons and die, I think.
Yeah, that is so many Archons.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, we're just gearing up for what is going to be one of, if not the final battle. Here comes Stats coming in. He is going to try to take down this third, but he's going to go for the fight.
A
Look
lot
at
of
that
these Zealots
Archon
aren't-
splash damage.
A lot of these Zealots aren't being splashed right now. This is actually really, really good fight for Hurricane, considering what the army composition was here.
More Immortals, though, for Stats behind this, and another Warp in here.
Yeah, that warping was so good. This is actually really good for Hurricane so far.
Yeah, the Hurricane is actually going to do pretty well here. The Archons are actually starting to have to be micro because they're dropping very, very low in health. And I think Hurricane is actually going to hold on.
Really well controlled, by the way. Look at these Archons. They all have no shields at all. All of them. This Stalker could pick off 3 Archons if it wasn't Archon. It gets 1.
Oh my god, he gets 2! And he
Look at
blinks
that.
away! God Stalker there from Stats, kind of evening the floor after all is said and done, but that was a lot of harassment. In the end, Hurricane does still have about 10 less workers.
Yeah, this was really, really good trade for Stats. Though he did hold, which was good, but this drop's going to be really annoying too. I can't believe that he lost 2 Archons to 1 Stalker after that. That is one... That Stalker deserves a
He was
proper
trying to be a
promotion.
little bit fancy with the micro. It didn't work out, but in the end, Hurricane...
To be fair, these 2 Archons have no HP
Yeah,
either.
that is true. They've been regenning just a little bit. But let's see what Hurricane can do on top of the ramp. Probably not a whole lot of Stats works in at home. Oh no!
This is
Oh,
getting
this could
pretty
be
bad.
tragic.
Yeah. I think at this point he's just getting punched over and over and over again while he's on the ground.
Yeah, the Warp Prism control is just really, really
The only
strong
thing,
here
if
from
he,
Stats.
if he's able to take out some of this economy at the third base, maybe he can even it out. But the biggest thing here is the economic disadvantage is so huge.
Yeah, Stats, that Warp Prism is just going to be able to be micro to Kingdom coming back. And on the other side, you can see Stats defending immaculately back at home. What does Hurricane have to do to come back here? He's got +2 to +2 right now. So is he going to go for 4?
I don't think he... To be honest, it would be really hard for him to come back in this position. Like, he can't do anything fancy with Dark Templar because he did it earlier, and now he's really well defended against
There's
it.
no mystery there. The
only
observers are already out.
Like, Defender's advantage maybe can keep him in this game. So, like, if he can do the same thing that happened earlier where he snipes the Warp Prism and then gets the army or something like that, then maybe that'll even up the playing field here.
He's actually moving a little bit out there. He's trying to find the Warp Prism right now. Will he target it down in time? And he will get it. Beautiful.
This is exactly what needed to happen.
Exactly what you said. No regret. And he's actually going to catch Stats army kind of funneling in a little bit here. This isn't the smallest army for Hurricane. He is going to warp in back at home, but I do think there's more here for Stats.
The biggest thing is there's no Warp Prism here for Hurricane either. Okay, here comes the Warp in.
Yep, that is the warp in. It's going to be Zealous on an
Actually,
Immortal,
he's gonna get
exactly
the
what
entire
you
army,
want.
I think.
Is this the perfect fight for Hurricane?
It is, but he needs to back up right now. These two Archons have way too low HP here.
Yeah, he does need to save the Archons, but with the blink forward.
Oh my god, these Stalkers are going to get more Archons. Gets
man.
one, maybe?
Stats Hero Stalkers, kind
It's
of the
so
story
close.
of today.
Okay, here gets one.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get this last one as well. Nope,
Oh
just
my God,
barely
so
does
close.
not grab it. He's morphing another one.
Okay,
And
got
there
it.
it goes. Boom goes the Dynamite, and I think this might be the final straw. GG Stats takes game number 1 against Hurricane.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is no Warp Prism at that fight. Imagine if he's able to micro and warp in. Like, the potential for that fight was so much bigger for Hurricane, especially after Stats was funneling into his army, that he just needed a Warp Prism to actually sustain his units, warp in more, and I think he could have won, potentially. I don't think it would have been a really, like, favorable position, but it's definitely doable.
Well, that is game number 1. All of you guys out there should be cheering for a game 3 because GSL Atlas is going to be our 3rd map, and I am really looking forward to maybe seeing that a couple of times this season. If we don't make it there, maybe it'll come up later on, but you know, for Stats, he did just look like he was totally on top of everything. A little bit of a mess up with that force field early on, but he didn't take critical damage from that and was able to get damage done on the other side.
Yeah. I really was impressed by both players. Like, Stats picked up on that Dark Templar without scouting it, guys. Like,
It's just beautiful. Sometimes it's what impresses me the most is not what players do, but it's what they do when they don't know what's going on.
He
To get
knew
that last
100% seeing a Robo that was delayed that it was Dark Templar. That was 100% reaction to that.
So smart.
Like, it wasn't a reaction to Proxy Stargate to get a Sentry and a Robo for an Observer. He knew it was easy.
I can react to us getting into this game, no regret.
Match
We'll be in a
2,
second to
fight.
match 2 of Stats versus Hurricane. Okay, here we go. Game number 2 on Acid Plant. This is,
Splice. Stats.
of course, in the blue, spawning in the upper left. His opponent in bottom right in the red. He is having another long intro.
Our boy, Hurricane.
Meliora Esports. Hurricane.
You gotta do it deeper. Hurricane.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Be
That's
the
why I'm
upcoming
not the
star of the
GSL.
Batman movie.
The GSL sound guy.
We've got our own GSL Batman
Yeah.
coming in. Okay, so game number 2, maybe you play a little bit more carefully as Stats to try to get some more of that scouting information. Of course, big fan. Thanks for coming out. Always good to see you guys down in the audience. Game number 2, what does Hurricane have to think right now? Do you think he was really outclassed that much in game 1?
I really don't. I think Hurricane should feel really comfortable. Like, there are simple mistakes Hurricane could have fixed that game to win. It was not like Stats just like was a brick and just completely demolished him. Like, both players had opportunities to win that game, and obviously Stats ended up winning it. To be fair, he was very far ahead after that third base engagement. So, like, realistically, it all boils down to that Warp Prism, right? At Stats' third base. If he doesn't lose that, then that game can continue. And,
Right.
you know, Hurricane could be in a favorable position.
Yeah, maybe the Warp Prism is just a few, I don't know, squares backwards and doesn't get sniped. You can continually warp in and micro, changes everything. So we'll see what's up right now as Hurricane has a cheeky little probe headed all the way around the bottom side of the map. Is this for a proxy pylon or just to get a cheeky scout
It's
in?
definitely a Proxy Pylon.
Yep, there we go.
I think this is Stargate. Yeah, it's double Adept here, so you're obviously having a bit extra gas.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense that it's a Stargate. It could be something else, but that would make the most sense. To be fair, also, he did like Dark Templar, but he did not proxy it like this. And when you look at the flight path of a Stargate there, it makes the most sense that you would proxy a Stargate there, right?
Right. I mean, this is also something that Stats has to know, and maybe he can't think of every infinite possibility. But it'll be interesting to see where he does scout and for what that might be, because we're about to see that Stargate get thrown down. There it is. And Hurricane will be going for a
double Stalker.
proxy again. But, I mean, Stalkers are pretty good against
The
Stargate
biggest
units.
question here is Stats going to build a blind shield battery if he doesn't scout it? Like, he's going to send his Stalkers across the map. We'll see. Sometimes people just do it when you double Adept too. Like, double Adept isn't a huge tell, but usually it makes sense if it's a Stargate.
Oh, gonna catch the Adepts, so that's actually already a little bit of a win there for Stats. Push them back.
I mean, he could shade in here. There's no probe at the wall.
Oh my god. I guess you always expect that probe to be there, so you never try to punish, but
Okay, but
he's going to try to go for it
He
right
should
now.
have time. He's actually dragging these towards the Stargate. That's a bit crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, I would not do that. I mean, he's pretty much...
Yeah. Okay, if he does scout that, then
He's
obviously that
not
was a
gonna-
bad move by
The
Hurricane, but
one
he won't
thing
scout it.
is, this could be the double fake. Like, I wouldn't drag you to my Stargates.
Oh, big brain gaming right there. Always like to see the mind games in effect. But the other side of this is that Hurricane has to not die at home to mass stalker.
He's building a shield battery, by the way, so he does have the counter to this, in my opinion.
Stats
Also,
you're talking
yeah,
about.
stats.
Yeah.
Also, he's getting a warp prism, so there could be a timing here where Hurricane is actually a little bit, you know, in trouble because he's investing in a Stargate on the other side of the map.
Well, here we go. Stalker's popping out at just the last second. Still a disadvantage, but here comes the Oracle, and there is the saddest
See,
Oracle in the world.
He might be able to get some probes on the gas here.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
Perfect counter, really. Perfect
not
counter.
the ooh-ah feel he's looking for. And that is, like you said, a perfect counter by Stats, who completely read what was coming his way.
Again, this is another blind reaction to what was happening, right? Like he didn't scout anything before.
This
he
is
put the shield battery.
like Paul Muad'Dib blindness, where you don't have any eyes, but you got the sensory awareness to still see what's coming your way.
I honestly kind of wish Hurricane. I guess Hurricane doesn't know that there's a shield battery there, but if he just banks two oracles, he can do a lot with it.
Oh, Stats putting on a lot of pressure on the other side. That force field to
Okay,
just zone out a
he's
couple of
going
stalkers.
in with 2 oracles now, but it's a little late. There's too many stalkers here, I think.
Yeah, he might get a couple of
Oh.
probes. 3? No, just 2. And
Just 2, yeah.
good job by Stats, perfectly splitting his army up. This is one of the most impressive things for me about pro players. They know exactly what they need and where they need it. And to see Stats both put on pressure and defend back at home, really solid.
This is going to be really scary for Hurricane, I think. He's getting his third base. He's investing in tech like that isn't really helping him here, like oracles and stuff like that. It's really expensive units.
He got the oracles out, so he's going to bring those back to try to hold this and maybe snipe that sentry in the back, but they are not going to be able to hold up in Stalker versus Stalker Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it feels kind of bad if you're using oracles against stalkers, to be honest. Like
It
this,
does.
this amount of
I
stalkers
mean,
could
not
one
as bad
shot.
as using oracles against the shield battery, but yeah, the same feeling. It's not going to be good here for Hurricane. You see he's 10 supply down. The army supply just massive here for Stats, and he's going to force a cancel on the Nexus.
And he can't even go back up because he's going to get force fielded.
Yep. So there's a no-go zone, and there are the force fields, and I think this is
You
just
can get one more force field.
too strong a position to be in.
This is a bad spot to be
The
in.
higher Stalker numbers, warping out of the high ground, triple Oracles coming in, but like you said, no regret. Oracles versus Stalkers, not the matchup you want to fight. And as the Stalker numbers dwindle here for
He's
Hurricane,
doing a really good job of keeping these oracles alive, but yeah, I think at this point it's too much
yeah,
damage.
I think Stats might just have done it. He is going to try to push up the ramp. There's no sentries on the high ground to try to get any force fields. And even with a shield battery up there, this is just too many Stalkers for Stats. And after a close first game, I think Stats is about to punch his ticket to the winner's match. Microing against every last Stalker here is Hurricane. And he's really trying his heart out here, Jake.
I mean, he should be, honestly. He's practiced so much for this, so. This is actually like a perfect game from Stats, though.
No, GG,
Really,
completely
really
the G'est of G's in many ways. Stats takes a 2-0 over Hurricane and advances on to our winner's match.
Yeah, I mean, this would be one of the hardest matches for Hurricane, I think. Stats, one of the best PvP players, I think. And he played amazingly. Like, even when he didn't scout what was going on, he knew what was going on, you know?
That's just so beautiful to see what you don't see and be able to make inferences from that. That's why Stats is one of the best players in the world, and maybe why Hurricane might have to try something a little bit different next time than going for these proxies, which Stats, as one of the best defensive Protosses in the world, if not the best, is just very well prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, he hit a perfect read. I think the only thing that we could have seen better from Hurricane is if he had bunched 2 oracles and gone in with 2 instead of 1.
Right.
Because really, Stats had no 100%.
Coming up next is Cure versus Innovation. We're going to head out to a quick commercial break, and we'll see you then.